Philadelphia. Oh my God, I blew out your ears. I know I did for sure. But hello, welcome to Bell and the Birdmen, the post-game show. Incredibly intoxicated. We're putting that up front. Thank you to Vince and Philly Sports Trips for not only a great trip to Chicago, but the entire season. More on that later as we get to it.
Yeah.
We have cracked a couple of celebratory beers. In fact, I'm actually going to crack a Knob Creek, a premium, old-fashioned here.
Is that what you got in Indy too?
Cheers. Oh, yeah. I can't believe these are available. This is amazing.
John loves the pre-mixed cocktail. That is his drink of choice. Is that your drink of choice, would you say, at this point?
Yeah, oh, yeah. Always.
The
just
pre-mixed cocktail?
And why you asked Vince Quinn we have to have a pre-mixed cocktail? Because that was one of the worst fucking games in the cold that we had to witness and feel. But it doesn't matter because the Eagles still win, and they are 13-1. It was the worst game from Jalen Hurts this season.
He was awful.
No doubt about it.
He was awful for the first half. He sucked for the first half.
It was very Coltsy.
Colts game was ugly too. The whole team sucked for that. The coaching sucked. Coaching sucked today too. Coaching was really bad today. They're scripting. I'll say this right off the bat because that was one of the notes I had going through the game as we were there at Soldier, which is a weird place, but.
Yeah, it was like, how did you describe it again?
I described Soldier Field as a spaceship landed on the Supreme Court. That's what it looks like.
It's a pretty good description.
It's a bunch of big columns and like weird wavy walls and layers. We were in the 400 level and there was a weird like dive from us to three sections over.
It's a very deep stadium.
Very curvy and strange.
Also, Taylor Kredatus was pointing out there where you could see where the old seats used to go all the way back too, and you're going, how on earth could any person?
Oh my God! If you were at Soldier Field in 1950, you watched the game from 500 yards away. You were buck hunting more than you were watching a game of football.
Seriously.
So good luck to those people. They wasted all of their money, all 35 cents a ticket.
Yeah.
But looking at this, look, the game planning sucked to begin this game. And let's get real about this, all right? Because we talked about this and we praised the Eagles for this going into the game. But there was so much bullshit of they should believe in we're not playing the Chicago Micah Parsons and all this stuff. Look, dude, they clearly were thinking about playing the Cowboys next week.
Of course they were.
Yeah, so, okay, but we didn't fully believe that until we saw this game. And then we saw this game, we're like, oh, they actually were ready for the Chicago Micah Parsons more than they were thinking about the Chicago Bears.
Also, it looks like the Micah Parsons were ready for Jalen Hurts instead of Trevor Lawrence. More on that later. That's kind of why I'm a little more happy and why I'm not completely crushing this Eagles teams right now. But, yeah, I mean,
also the booze.
Yeah, all the booze is helping that too. But the number one thing that stands out to me, opposing from the awful scripting in the beginning of this game from the offense for sure, you had two major injuries on the Bears within 3 minutes of gameplay.
Yeah.
And then you look down and you're like, because when you get, when you're that high up, you can tell when there's new sod on the ground, not even know. I was like, oh, that looks fresh and new in between the hash marks. And Vince was like, oh, yeah, they said that they redid the entire sod for this game. And within 3
middle
minutes,
of the field.
two players go down. And everything that ground must have been frozen the way everybody was getting up. And Jalen Hurts later in the game, it looked like he got majorly injured for a second.
Yeah.
And, wind getting knocked at you. So
Fields too, by the way.
Exactly.
Jalen went down, Fields went down, major injuries for the Bears early in the game. And that second injury, because it's crazy because it was 2 in 2.5 minutes. I mean, we were literally, I remember staring at 12:31 distinctly. But that lineman for the Bears, man, he was on the turf for 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, it took them probably a good 3-4 minutes to load him.
No,
that's Javon Johnson, who was a monster in the secondary. But dude.
Is that what I'm thinking of?
Yeah, 33 for the Bears, who was an absolute monster against A.J. Brown, even though he still probably gave up 80 yards against A.J. Brown. He played a great game.
186.
186 for 8 wrecks.
Yeah, I'm not going to put all those yards on Johnson because he had a hell of a game. But, dude, he had some good moments. He got
dinged up at the end, too,
exactly. So, a lot of people got hurt in this game. Look, people always try to excuse cold weather of like, oh, you should play better. And like, injuries are the same thing. It's like, oh, we understand you have a busted hamstring or whatever, but you should play better. It's like, no, motherfucker, he's got a busted hamstring. You know what I mean? Like, do you go up the stairs with a busted hamstring in your own house, and how do you feel? You know what I mean? Like, it's a shitty feeling. We all do it, but like, it doesn't feel any good. Can you imagine playing a football game against the best athletes on the planet in terms of like size and muscle build and all that kind of stuff, and then they're beating the shit out of you with a busted hamstring? Like, it's a terrible feeling. So they went through all of that. And it's a hard place to be. So it's just, I don't know. But there were a lot of injuries everywhere with everybody. Cold weather in general. It's fucking miserable, and nobody likes to acknowledge that because we fantasize it as football weather. But, like, it's shitty fucking weather, and nobody wants to be in it.
How miserable is it? It's so miserable that Fletcher Cox cannot pick up a simple, wide-open, that's my ball fumble after and which results into... I think a touchdown after that?
Yeah,
is that what happened?
they very briefly. Hold on.
Go back to the notes here. Yeah.
There's a lot of notes. Let's see. Fletch missed a fumble recovery, immediately Fields touchdown. It was called back, and then Montgomery scored a couple of plays later.
And then they were up 6-3 after that.
And
right?
then they missed the extra point, so it was a 6-3 game. Which that's one of the silly things about this game, is thinking about big picture and where it really should have been for the Eagles. Because, like, all right. First off, the Bears miss an extra point. Then they had an opportunity, but they should have kicked a field goal from the 32. The 32-yard line. The kick would have been from the 37, which is a 47-yard field goal in your own stadium. Yeah. In an era, if this was 2002, I could understand the trepidation. But we're in an era where people kick 63-yarders all the fucking time. Jason Elam set a record in like 2002. I remember him kicking from the logo and being like, holy shit, this is a big deal. Everyone does that all the fucking time. It's not a big deal anymore. So like, to not kick a 47-yarder in your own stadium because you're afraid of the consequences, the fans booed. Bears fans booed the Bears, and they were right.
Oh, not only did they boo, those guys in front of us turned around and said, that was the most embarrassing thing that a franchise could have done in front of us, was punt right there. And what happened? Jalen Hurts and company runs right back down and scores a touchdown.
And they scored immediately after.
And I heard nothing but MVP chants right after that from all the Chicago Bears fans that were right down in front of us because, you know, like, hey, we're on your side now, we want to lose. So it was that type of game. As we are watching the late games here as the Cincinnati Bengals are trying to take away any type of contender from the NFC South, which is crazy, which we'll get into in a second. But, like, I don't know, man. I don't know if there's any huge takeaways. Oh, you were going back over your notes. So
I got to go over my notes because, you know what? I think part of it is we crammed parts of this game together. Apparently, once the Bears scored that touchdown, let's see. Yeah, Hurts got picked off right after that touchdown drive.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
you mentioned it earlier. He made some really god awful throws today. I mean, it's not even like, okay, he found a guy, he was going at AJ ended up being in double coverage, they masked it or whatever. Yeah. He had some throws that were like 8 yards off of the target. Like he had some, I mean, and look, this is the Vince Quinn curse, okay? It's what it is.
Yeah, God, you had to say Tom Brady.
I talk up Dallas, and then after I talk up Dallas, which is, it's a hard thing for me to do anyway, as much as people won't believe that, I talked up Dallas, and then for the last 2 weeks, what have they done? They've played like absolute dog shit. They've played so bad the last 2 weeks, and they've lost to Jacksonville. There's a lot to talk about with that, but... Man, I talk up Jalen Hurts. I'm like, he's the MVP. He doesn't make bad decisions. And then he makes a couple of awful throws in the first half. He almost throws away this game. And they're still able to overcome that. But, God, he was fucking terrible for the first start of this game.
Yeah, really bad. Like, worst of probably his career that I can remember outside of that Giants game. It was starting to look that way. I was like, oh, man, if you're going to give us a dud here, you know. And so, like, I guess that's my impression from today. He lost the MVP today, unfortunately. If you were going for that. To who? To NFL media writers who are going to look at this game and go like, you can't do that against Chicago for all the reasons you said, and you can, you know, yell about cold weather and bad first half scripts and all this other crap. And yeah, he pulls out the win and does all this stuff. And yes, he gets it. Taylor has the W in his hand.
Well,
and
yeah.
he gets the win. And both wide receivers, including Devontae, even though I still
125.
125 for
AJ was like 168.
Yeah, 169 for 8, and but they didn't result in touchdowns. None of it looked smooth. You basically threw right to a safety, and I had no idea why. And again, by the way, would you notice? Again, Quez Watkins in a route. There's something going on there, man. So I don't even know if I can entirely blame.
What, he's not OBJ? Anyway.
Yeah, very much that.
But let me ask you this. Hold on.
It's not me. It's not. I know what you're going to say.
Yes,
I'm just saying
because
they're not going to vote for him.
Well, they're not. But for you personally, does it change anything about how you feel about AJ Hurts or AJ Hurts?
God, fuck yeah, baby. That's what it should be.
I'm not drunk. Jalen Hurts. Does it change any bit how you feel about Jalen Hurts as the MVP?
Me personally, yeah, he shouldn't.
It does?
He shouldn't win it after this game.
Really? You think this
we
week?
We just said.
Where am I the good guy? Where am I the popular guy? This does not change Jalen Hurts as the MVP.
It's a dud. We said he can't have a dud. He had a dud. He still ran for 3 touchdowns. He's still going to break Cam Newton's record. I don't want him to win MVP. Who cares at this point?
He deserves it at this point.
No, man. If it's going to be like this, where you have to shit a brick against Chicago just to pull out a win here, whatever. Give it to Patrick Mahomes. Tip your cap and say,
no.
I don't. It's an arbitrary award to begin with, anyway.
Everything's arbitrary to begin with.
I'm just saying,
Nobel Peace Prize is arbitrary.
Today in the NFL media award eyes, he will never get that back. That will always be an argument going for it. I don't care. If Patrick Mahomes had to go into overtime with the Texans today.
Hold on. Taylor, come over here. Can you please
come? He just said he won the game.
Yeah, I want you on camera.
He can't. It won't work.
You can walk over here, but that's fine.
He won the game. That's what he's saying.
He won the game. I can't believe, who are you handing? So you're handing it to Patrick Mahomes right now, who just went into overtime today.
I'm not handing it to him. I'm just saying, when you put this
Texans,
in front of NFL media, all those dumb people at the Ringer are going to knock him down.
But he won the game.
That's exactly where I want him to be. That's exactly where I want this team to be, all of it. They just put up a dud and won against the Bears. They had some great moments against it, but when it comes time in the playoffs, this just aligns perfectly. Just like you said, Vince Quinn, you put the curse out there. Everybody thinks this way. He's the next Tom Brady. And now you look like a fucking clown show, and that's a good thing. Just like I look like a clown show, and that's a good fucking thing because we're so hyped up about Jalen Hurts. We're shoving it down people's throats, and everybody's going, fuck you. Fuck you. Great. They're saying, fuck you to a 13-1 team who's about to walk into Dallas next week and not only wrap up the division, but wrap up the NFC. Perfect.
Yeah.
Great. So don't give it to him. Don't give it to him because I know he is, you know he is, and Taylor knows he is, but no one's going to fucking care. No one's going to care until he's hoisting up that trophy as a Super Bowl MVP, which he will be, which is the only fucking award that I care about right then and there. So get your fucking head right. I just sounded like some guy ordering a brat. I've been around too many Chicago people, and the alcohol is starting to set in. But I'm just saying, I think this is another great game to say, you're not all the shit yet. You can't just walk into a place and flick everybody off and say, I'm good. If they were still undefeated, I would get it because this is just, the narrative would change completely. This is what happens. Everybody's going to get their best shot or whatever, but
well, no, you're right though. And I promised this to Taylor that I would make sure that I said this because we both, and I started this, so it's my fault. But there was at some point late in the second quarter, I was like, is Fetty Wap here? Because this is a trap game. And Taylor says woof on the joke, and he's right.
Same.
And John says woof on the joke because you're right. But you know what,
God damn it. I'm a dad and I'm woofing at that joke. Can you believe that
That game was 17-13 late in the game. I know it ended at a very different score. It's 25-20. But Jesus Christ, that game was pretty fucking close most of the way. It shouldn't have been. Fields got hurt late. Whatever. I don't know. They played a terrible game against a very bad team. And I think this is important too because we saw it in the Discord. So I want to talk about this.
Yeah.
There was a lot of talk in the Discord. and like you guys were all demanding that Miles Sanders get the ball.
Wow.
And I get the balance of wanting the run game, but like, guys, well, that's, yeah.
Taylor just yelled out who?
Taylor yelled who. All right, so don't yell at me for this. But like, look, the offensive line didn't create lanes. What's the point of giving Miles Sanders the ball when he's not a creator? And he's not. He's a great athlete.
He was a giveawayer.
But he was a giveawayer for the first time this season, so I'll defend him for that. It's the first time all year he's fumbled the ball.
So I mean, it's an off game for everybody.
But
30 yards, Taylor.
But yeah, he had 42 yards rushing. He had negative 13 in the passing game. Negative 13.
Those hands, though.
But yeah, it's just Miles Sanders is a product of the offensive line. The offensive line did not have it today.
You ain't got to preach to nobody about that.
No, it does. Yes, I do, because they didn't create lanes all day today. They didn't create lanes all day. Miles Sanders had nowhere to go. Kenny Gainwell had nowhere to go. The only guy that had anywhere to go was Boston Scott on a punt return that took it to the 45 of the Bears because he's a goddamn monster.
Get some respect
kickoff return because Britton Covey, who lost whatever he had.
Did the same thing he's done for 17 weeks straight or whatever it's been?
For 10 weeks straight or whatever, and then he had 2 weeks of greatness, and then he's back. But Boston Scott had a killer week as a returner. But otherwise, the running game wasn't anywhere because the only thing that worked was Jalen Hurts in the running game, and I know everybody hated that, but it was one of the few things that actually worked consistently.
In fact,
and he made it work out of structure.
Dude, did you hear? I don't know if you saw Nick Sirianni refused to comment. I believe it was from Kemsky who asked, the ultimate touchdown when the safety blitz is coming in, and I thought the same thing, or like, oh shit, they're really going to test Jalen's arm here, and he just fucking takes off running for 30 yards with no one on him, and he scores a touchdown, and it's like, hey, was that on design? And Nick Sirianni, for the first time I think all season, goes, I'm going to leave that one to me, guys.
All right.
I'm not going to tell you if that was like planned or not.
What the fuck is that?
But either way, I don't think that was planned, first of all. I think Jalen called that on his own, but what an amazing play and call that was all around. And there were things like that in this game all of the time.
Yes, but I want to focus on that, though. No, because you're making a really good point, right? Like, think about this, okay? Jalen Hurts is in a situation. He's got 5 wide. He's looking around. He goes, all right, here's all the different guys, all these different places, all this talent, which we've said, best pass catchers I've ever seen in this city. So all these guys are lined out wide. Chicago's defending all that. Snap happens. There's nobody in the middle of the field. He immediately knows that because he's reading things, and he goes, listen, I know there's nobody here. I'm going to make this commitment. And then he runs for what, 20, 25 yards?
Yeah.
I mean, he ran, that was not from the 5.
And like,
that was a long distance to get that touchdown.
Committed
stat hog. All right, that's a whole other argument, and
so
we
for
definitely
save this
you can't sit over there for that, Taylor. You'll have to be in on it for that.
But just so people know, Taylor Kredatus does believe that Jalen Hurts is stat hawking secretly, and he makes a great.
It's not a secret.
It's not a secret.
All right, come on, just come over.
We'll save it for Tuesday.
We're
it's a
saving
good tease.
it. I think
Absolutely.
whatever.
But here's man, this just kind of leads back to that whole like coaching conversation because one, we all agree, and the Eagles Twitter, and everyone agrees today, including the Discord, which you can join, BellToBirdmen.com, text us 215-509-5833 if that's not your thing. But like, that was a Jalen call, and Jalen recognized that dude was blitzing to that side and fucking ducked around to the left-hand side and knew where the lane was going to be, and it opened up for him and checked and called. And I believe Devontae Smith had said something earlier in this game and was quoted as like, yeah, Jalen made that check to make that happen. Plus, we're not going to remember this because he threw an awful interception right after it. But like that scramble out of nothing, which we have on film, all 22. Thanks again, Vince Rizzuto over at PhillySportsTrips.com for allowing us to make that happen. Like, scrambles out of nowhere and finds Devontae Smith for 21 yards and a first down, which is impossible. So, like, I don't know what happened in this game where Jalen was looking like Jay Cutler for like
Jay Cutler. God, you throw a Bears quarterback, Jay Cutler.
Or I don't know, whatever you want to throw in there.
Oh man,
leading yards. for the Bears, by the way.
Yeah,
but I never thought I would hear John specifically compare
those
Jalen
are some
Hurts
Jay
to
Cutler as
Cutler.
interceptions. That's all I'm
called
saying.
him Jay Cutler.
Like, what are you looking at and what are you throwing to?
Call him Jay Cutler.
So it is the loudest, quietest 200 wide receiver yards between both AJ and Devontae.
Between those guys, it's almost 300. I mean, 169 and 125. So yeah, it's almost 300, but just between the two of them. And,
So it was
and,
weird.
And
It was just a weird night.
Devontae was one of those guys that early he was killing it in the game. He was absolutely killing it. They went away from him for a long time. And then I literally said to you guys in stands, there's a third down call because it was like second down. They tried something. I was like, it'd be time for Devontae. Like, I'd be getting back to that. And then immediately they hit him 2 different times because he got the first down and they hit him again. And I was like, yeah, this guy's pretty fucking good. So, yeah, those guys played really well. They were lucky to get through on a really shit team despite playing a terrible game. Defense was great. And we've always crushed Jonathan Gannon, so I think it's important to give him credit when it's due.
What's this we shit? We?
What do you mean? You've never said a bad word.
I've said bad things about Jonathan Gannon, but I'll be the sole person that's been. Anyway, continue. Yeah. All right.
Whatever.
All right.
All right.
No one's been happy about Jonathan Gannon. Yeah.
So for what he did today, like for example, Kayvon Wallace and Kaiser White would exchange each other constantly. We saw a lot of one high safety looks. They adapted the defense a bit based on the personnel. They got a lot of sacks. They had 6 sacks today, minimum. There was probably more than that, but they had at least 6 sacks for the 3rd straight week in a row. That's important. Hargrave, Sweat, Reddick, all those guys killed it. So, yeah, defensive line did its job. Defense overall did its job. This game could have gotten ugly. It didn't because they're a better team, but fuck.
Yeah, and I don't know what they ended up with, but Hassan, 2 sacks. Hargrave, 2 sacks. I believe Fletch, 2 sacks in there, 2. And that is, again, I think for the 3rd consecutive game in a row that those
Hargrave was the guy for that. Yeah.
6 sacks from those collectively. Like, it just keeps piling up. Stat padding towards that. There's plenty to nitpick in terms of like what they ended up doing and how they all did this stuff. But to me, the defense carried this entire fucking side of the game. It's one of the only reasons why they ended up winning it. And even though that being said, they had some mind-blowingly really bad coverage calls. With the Montgomery
touchdown. Montgomery
wide open.
He was uncovered. There was literally nobody on Montgomery. Now I'll say this: here's the funny thing about it of where we are with Jonathan Gannon. If it turns out that he sent 8 guys to blitz Justin Fields in that moment, who has no receivers. That team sucks. They had another injury today on their limited receivers, so that team really sucked. So they sent 8 guys, and it turns out that David Montgomery is open and gets the touchdown. I think more people are happy that he blitzed 8 people than he gave up the touchdown to David Montgomery. And I don't really disagree with that. I don't.
Hey, at least you got Bert.
It's
Thanks for doing what we wanted.
You sent the house, like you saw a moment against a younger quarterback, and you sent the house. Part of me doesn't really mind.
Rush 7 instead of 8. Devontae Maddox hangs out with Devontae, or I said it again with David Montgomery.
He can't hang with Devontae.
But I tell you this much: I would be in a lot worse mood if the Cowboys didn't lose and they lost so significantly. And
I don't want to talk about it.
It's
my team. My Dallas Cowboys, as the Discord has told me, my Dallas Cowboys.
Can thank Vince Quinn for because everything's.
I cursed them.
Hey, you got to watch out for this team. I mean, just unbelievable. So, hey,
not dead yet.
It's honestly, I just want to say this from the bottom of that heart. Fuck you, Micah Parsons. That ain't Ohio State. That ain't Michigan. That ain't Iowa. That ain't Illinois. And this ain't the Big Ten, big boy. You can't fucking yap, and then put up that bullshit. So can't wait to see you on Saturday. There'll be lots of calls and takes and all that stuff leading up to it. I cannot wait to get back to Philadelphia. Vince Rizzuto, what an unbelievable season this has been from everyone at Philly Sports Strips. Thank you so much for all of our friends over at Liquid Death, where you can go and find some Liquid Death right now, liquiddeath.com/belt, because I am fucking hammered and I love it because I know that. Oh, and also excellent point for whoever tweeted it out and I forgot it. Chicago will get you, man. I'm just telling you. And somebody on the pregame who was keeping a keen eye, only 2 people in suits from the Philadelphia Eagles coming off the bus today. So that tells you everything you need to know about how much time everybody had to get dolled up, and I get it. So fucking A, Vince Quinn, Taylor Kredatus, everybody else that has enjoyed us on this journey. Kyler, I'm so sorry we couldn't get to you in section 444. It was crazy. I hope you're around for the next one, and there will be plenty of them. Go to bellandthebirdmen.com. That is where you can subscribe, listen, and do all the fun stuff.
Join the Discord, all that.
That you can join the fun conversations and things like that. 215-509-5833. Just to text us. We'll see you later. That was fun, and we'll do it again soon for the playoffs this week. Bye-bye, guys.
Wait, no.